Welcome to New Teacher Talk. My name is Tim Neubert, and I'm the Executive Director of the American Association for Employment and Education, also known as AAEE. I'm here today with Jeremy Eddy, Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition from Denver Public Schools in Colorado, to discuss how schools are working to retain you after hire. It's great to have you here today, Jeremy. Please share a little bit about yourself and your work and how you've come to develop some insights about today's topic.
Good morning, Tim. Again, it's an honor and both a privilege to be with you today. A little bit about myself. I grew up in the great state of Michigan. I said I wasn't going to be a teacher, but again, here I am leading the recruitment and retention efforts for the state's largest school district here in Colorado. Former teacher, former school leader, and now a leader of our talent acquisition team.
Tell our listeners, Jeremy, what are schools doing to ensure the teachers they hire are staying?
That's a great question. Before I even dive into that, I want to talk about data from the Learning Policy Institute. 9 out of 10 teachers that are hired each year are actually replacing colleagues who've left the profession. More than 2/3 of teachers, they actually quit before retirement. Our teachers in our Title I schools, which is a staggering statistic, it's a 50% higher attrition rate than other schools. In fact, 70% higher in math and science. So when we think about what schools are actually doing to ensure that teachers are staying in their respective schools or districts, we have to think about what does intentional retention look like, or what does that actually look like? Because again, we think about teacher pay. That's always going to be top of mind because our educators, they have to pay bills. They have to take care of their family. But outside of that, what can we do as districts to ensure that we're taking care of our own? Instantly, I think about placement. How can we intentionally place those educators within a building that they're going to get support from their school leader? That's one thing. We also have to talk about professional development. We always think about everyone's getting the same professional development. No, we have to ensure that this professional development is going to fit this individual person at that time. So those are some things that school districts can do to instantly retain those educators, not only in that school, but also within that school district.
Wait, for educators, what other factors are key when considering their current employment situation or new opportunities?
Pay is always going to be top of mind. But when individuals think about their salary, they have to delve a little bit deeper into what does their pay actually include. Here in Denver Public Schools, we talk about what does total rewards look like, or what does your total package look like? Let's take a deep dive into that. What kind of benefits is your employer going to offer? Of course, your medical, your dental, your vision. In Denver Public Schools, we have a medical plan, employee only, that's going to cost you $0. So those are some things that you have to be able to look into and see, is this going to benefit myself and my family? Also, you look at employee wellness. That is very important. We think about your physical well-being. We talk about your mental health, and we talk about your financial health. So those 3 components make up our employee wellness. Every single individual here in our organization has the opportunity to be a part of what we call this overall overarching employee wellness program. We think about physical wellness, we provide classes for meditation, stress relief. We talk about mental health. I think, again, you have to be able to take care of yourself before you take care of students. Financial health. How do you think about budgeting? How do you think about student loans? All of those pieces play a part in ensuring that your wellness as an employee of an organization is top of mind.
So how can educators make sure they are focusing on their own social emotional wellness?
I always talk about that burnout is real. Burnout is something that we as educators, we don't oftentimes take into account. We oftentimes pour so much into others that guess what? We fail to pour into ourselves. We fail to really think about, maybe I do need to take a step back. Maybe I shouldn't coach the basketball team, do student council, and do the other things. I often say, this is not the word of Jeremy, but you can't pour from an empty cup. If your cup is so empty, how can you pour into your students? National Education Association, they put out a statistic that said, our female educators, they report a significantly higher rate of job-related stress and burnout than our male educators. And in fact, our Black educators report significantly higher burnout rates than our white educators. We really have to figure out what's the true root cause of teacher and educator burnout and stress, and how can districts truly support our educators in fighting and combating stress and burnout.
You mentioned unique statistics around Black educators. I know that's a passion of yours. Can you tell us what supports you believe schools and districts should employ to not only recruit, but also retain teachers of color?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, that is one area that I'm truly passionate about. There are many districts, there are many states that are employing different recruitment and retention strategies that are focused on how to increase the number of educators of color. Something that districts can truly do is when they're recruiting, you have to figure out the why behind the recruitment of educators of color. Is it just because you want to check a box, or is it because you believe that it's going to impact the greater good? A lot of times we focus on the recruitment, but we don't focus on the retention. What does retention mean as it relates to educators of color? I think about that and I say, okay, when you're thinking about the retention of our educators of color, we talk about intentional placement. How can you ensure that those educators of color are placed in an environment that's going to yield support, that's going to yield opportunities for growth, that's also going to yield them not feeling isolated, because oftentimes our educators of color are subject to ensuring that they are the disciplinarians. I can remember when I was an educator, all of the students who were quote unquote the troubled students were sent to Mr. Eddie's class, for discipline. Here in Denver Public Schools, we employ visa sponsorships. We do J1 as well as H1 visas. We do permanent citizenship. So I think, again, how can you recruit and retain educators with diverse backgrounds? That's one thing that we do here in Denver Public Schools very well, our visa sponsorship programs. So ensuring that our educators reflect that of our students as well as our families and community.
There's some great information and insights with us today, Jeremy. Thank you. And to our audience, thank you for listening. I hope you become a regular follower of this podcast channel. And remember, as a new teacher, we are here to help you.